Twice this week, the U.S. ambassador to Canada has been telling Canadians about his great disappointment. He has said, Pete Hoekstra has said twice that the United States had hoped for a bigger deal with Canada than just the CUSMA, than just the USMCA. He said they had hoped for a deal that encompassed critical minerals, steel, energy, nuclear, but it wasn't possible. So he said this to two audiences this week. What's your side of the story?
Twice in 1 week. Pete Hoekstra, the United States ambassador to Canada, stood in front of two separate audiences and told Canadians he was deeply disappointed in them. Disappointed that Canadians are not passionate enough about America. Disappointed that ordinary Canadians do not share his enthusiasm for the relationship that Washington has spent the past 2 years systematically damaging. And then a reporter in Mexico City put that complaint directly to Mark Carney, standing beside the President of Mexico, having just signed a comprehensive strategic partnership that signals Canada's growing independence from American pressure, in a room full of international media watching every word. And Carney answered in a way that should make every Canadian over the age of 60 feel something they have not felt in a very long time watching their government deal with Washington. Pride. Subscribe to Canada Point right now, because what Carney said in that room changes the entire dynamic of these negotiations.
That bigger deal that's in the interest not just of the United States, but in the interest of the Canadian people is not on the table. But it's still possible. What is the fact is that Canada and Mexico have the best actual trading relationship, trading agreements with the United States. First point. Second point is that a process is just beginning with reviews in each of our country, consultations in each of our country, of how that relationship can be improved. And while those consultations are going on, of course, we're having bilateral discussions with the United States, so you may see improvements along the way. We have the ambition, but a deal is a deal, and a deal has to go for both sides, and Canada will agree a deal that's in the best interest of Canadians. Should not surprise anyone, including the U.S. ambassador, who's doing a very good job, I would add. Thank you. For America.
Thank you for America. 4 words, delivered with a calm smile that carries more weight than an hour of political speeches. Carney is not mocking Hoekstra. He is not attacking him personally. He is acknowledging him politely, and in that same breath making something crystal clear. Canada decides what deals serve Canadian interests, not Washington, not the U.S. ambassador, not Truth Social posts at midnight. And right now, the bigger deal Hoekstra has been hinting at, critical minerals, steel, energy, nuclear wrapped into one grand arrangement, is not on the table. Not because Canada cannot do it, but because Canada will only sign an agreement that genuinely serves Canadians. That distinction matters enormously for your generation. The generation that remembers when Canadian negotiators gave away too much because they felt they had no choice. Because they feared American displeasure more than they trusted Canadian strength. Carney just told Washington that era is finished. But before we go further, let us be honest about what Hoekstra actually said, because his comments deserve to be heard fully before we respond to them. The U.S. ambassador said he was disappointed that Canadians are not passionate about the American-Canadian relationship, that the business community still cares but ordinary Canadians have pulled back, that the Elbows Up campaign and the Buy Canadian movement reflect an anti-American sentiment he finds troubling. And here is what he completely failed to acknowledge. Canadians did not wake up one morning and decide to be cold toward America. That coldness has a source, it has a history, it has a cause. And that cause has a name. Trump's tariffs hitting Canadian steelworkers who spent decades building an integrated North American industry. Trump calling Canada's Prime Minister a governor. Trump suggesting Canada should become the 51st state. Trump threatening to tear up trade agreements that generations of Canadian workers built their livelihoods around. Hoekstra is disappointed that Canadians lost their passion for America, but he is an ambassador for the administration that extinguished it.
Of course, we are going to cooperate directly as we always have. USMCA, CUSMA, USMCA, is strength together. It's strength of the three countries together. That's what makes North America that contributes to North America be the economic envy of the world. And Canada is absolutely committed to work with both our partners. If there's opportunities to improve the agreement, we will pursue those. We can think of some. Our Mexican colleagues can. I'm sure the Americans will as well. That will be informed by our review process. But we'll move forward together without question. Is that unequivocal enough for you? Because if you want it to be unequivocal, just write down unequivocal.
You want it to be unequivocal, just write down unequivocal. There it is again. That quiet, devastating composure from a man who has spent his career making enormous decisions under enormous pressure without ever losing his footing. Carney is not performing toughness for the cameras. He is not trying to sound strong. He simply is. And that quality, that settled, unshakable confidence, is what separates him from every other kind of political leader your generation has watched deal with Washington. He is not angry at Trump. He is not afraid of Trump. He is simply clear. Canada cooperates with both its North American partners. The trilateral arrangement is the economic envy of the world. Canada is committed to making it work. And if improvements are possible, Canada will pursue them. On Canadian terms, no drama, no raised voice, no threat, just clarity delivered with a small smile and an invitation to write it down if you need it confirmed. Washington has never known how to handle this kind of opponent, and it shows. And here is the part of this story that your competitor did not fully appreciate. Carney was not just answering a question about Hoekstra when he gave that response in Mexico City. He was answering from a position of strength that he had spent the previous several hours building. Canada and Mexico signed a comprehensive strategic partnership that day. Trade, investment, agriculture, aerospace, security, climate cooperation, a bilateral framework designed to deepen the relationship between two countries that have been allied for over 80 years. And then a reporter asked whether Trump would try to divide Canada and Mexico, whether each country would throw the other under the bus to get a better bilateral deal. Carney's answer was one word: unequivocal. Canada will not abandon Mexico to get a faster deal with Washington. Mexico will not abandon Canada. The three amigos stay together, and Trump's divide-and-conquer strategy hits a wall built by two sovereign nations that have decided solidarity serves them better than competition.
North America is the economic envy of the world. It's the most competitive economic region of the world. And part of the reason for that is the cooperation between Canada and Mexico, both of us and the United States. We complement the United States. We make them stronger. We are all stronger together.
We make them stronger. That line from Carney in Mexico City is the most important thing he said all day, and it received the least attention in the coverage, because it reframes the entire relationship in a way that Hoekstra and Trump simply cannot argue against. Canada is not asking for American charity. Canada is not begging for market access. Canada is not a dependent territory hoping Washington will be generous. Canada is a partner that makes the United States stronger. Canadian energy powering American industry. Canadian auto parts completing American vehicles. Canadian aluminum going into American aircraft. Canadian agricultural products feeding American families. The relationship your generation built over decades, the integrated North American economy that created prosperity on both sides of the border, was built by Canadians as much as Americans. And it benefited Americans as much as Canadians. When Hoekstra says Canadians lack passion for the relationship, he is talking about feelings. When Carney says we make them stronger, he is talking about facts. And in negotiations, facts outlast feelings every single time. Pete Hoekstra came to Canada expecting to shame Canadians into warmer feelings toward an administration that has spent 2 years treating this country as a target rather than a partner. He found instead a country that has spent that same period building alternatives, deepening ties with Mexico, signing deals across 5 continents, sending its prime minister to Mexico City to announce a comprehensive strategic partnership while the U.S. ambassador was giving disappointed speeches in Ottawa. And when a reporter finally asked Carney about Hoekstra's disappointment in front of the entire international press corps in Mexico City, Carney smiled. Not on the table, but still possible, if it is in the best interest of Canadians. Thank you for America. Your generation built this country's relationship with the United States through decades of good faith cooperation and honest partnership. You watched it get weaponized against you. You watched tariffs hit workers who had done nothing wrong. You watched sovereignty get questioned by the very ally you helped through every crisis since the Second World War. And now you are watching a Canadian Prime Minister stand beside Mexico's president and say plainly and without blinking that Canada will only sign what serves Canadians. No drama, no anger, just a small smile and complete unshakable clarity. That is the Canada you built, and it is still standing. Subscribe to Canada Point for honest analysis that respects your intelligence and your experience. Turn on notifications and we will see you in the next one.